Okay, so for the next 2 days, I'm going to be building this van bed rack. So this is the final form in CAD, basically two identical bottom structures and then a top structure. I am only responsible for the bottom structure, so this is all the bottom structure right here. It is just 1.25 inch, 60-61 aluminum, and then we have 1.5 by 1.5 eighth wall angle iron that is sitting on top of this 80-20 extrusion and will be bolted to the extrusion to secure it in place. So you can see that these two bottom pieces are identically the same, and then this top piece is a little bit more complicated and has this rectangle in here. Now that piece, if we go back to our other page, is where this lies, and this is like a little backrest. So the final project, this will pop up and be a little backrest, so it will be really cool when it's all done. So the first thing that I do for all this is I'll get all the measurements and get how much material this will need to build, and then I pull all my measurements of how long each piece is and stuff like that, which is very critical for this project, just because I don't have the van at my shop, just a CAD drawing, so I have to make sure all of these are very precise so that it fits in his van as soon as he gets it. So I'll just have to take my time, get multiple measurements, measure 3 times, do all that stuff to make sure it fits. So this, since it's all aluminum, I'll be TIG welding this whole thing, which will come out very nice. And so I'll have to start cutting all this stuff up. Okay, so once we have all of our material, I will cut it on my vertical bandsaw. As you can see that I'm taking multiple measurements to make sure everything's perfect and will fit exactly when he gets the rack. After I cut everything, I'll go over and basically grind the edges so there's no burrs, and then also take the little bit of coating on the aluminum off. So when you TIG weld it, you don't want that coating on there because it messes up the your puddle. It contaminates it. So I will grind that all off and get it all ready to be TIG welded. The vertical bandsaw is a great tool for this, just for me, because it's got little, like, it's almost automated where I just set it up, I hit the button, and I walk away and it cuts itself. But it is a little bit more, it's more of a lower end tool for most people, but it works, and it works for me very well. So once I have everything cut out, I am going to take it to the table, and I'm going to start putting together the bottom 2 pieces. And the bottom 2 pieces are exactly the same as we saw in the CAD. So I will take a bunch of measurements to make sure everything's straight, everything's the same, all the measurements are correct. I'll measure the inside angle to inside angle to make sure that measurement is correct, because if that's not correct, then it's not going to fit in the 80-20 extrusion that he has down the sides of his vans that this will set in. I use clamps to hold everything down while I'm welding, just to make sure, just to limit the amount of warpage. Sadly, it's still warped at the end of this project, but it wasn't much at all, really. So, and since you're bolting this down to a plane, it didn't warp at all when you do that. So it came out really good. So once everything is welded, or once those bottom 2 are welded, then I move to the little rectangle in the middle. That's for the flip up backrest. So I clamp all that down. I take a bunch of measurements to make sure that that piece is all square, and it's not crooked or anything like that, because that's not good if it's like that. So we want to make sure it's perfectly in line. Then I'll tack all the corners, remeasure, and tack again. Throughout welding this whole thing, I have a wire brush with me that I brush every place where I'm going to weld, just to make sure that I get that coating off so it doesn't decontaminate my weld. And then so after I get that one done, then I move to the big piece on the top, which is a little bit more measurements. It's almost the same, except it has a little bulge at the end. In the CAD drawing, it was rounded, but we came to an agreement that if we wanted to round it, we'd have to buy a tool, or a die for a roller, which was a little bit expensive. So we just mitered all the corners where the tubes intersect. So it came out looking very, very good. And since it's going to be covered up with wood, you won't even notice it. So I welded that all up, and then once that's all welded, then I clamped everything down and I knocked the tops of the welds off. So all the faces of the welds I knocked off because there's going to be a wood topping on it. It has to all sit flat and flush, and you don't want any welds protruding to make the wood uneven. So I took my grinder, knocked all the top welds off. I kept every other weld that I could to make sure the strength was still there. So I hit it with the top grinder, and then after that I hit it with a DA and got it all done up correctly. And then this is the final product of what it looks like. So it came out really, really nice.